Hello, everyone. This is Tim, and it is Thursday, May the 15th. And the purpose for this video is to let the viewer know what has been transpiring over the course of this year. And it's amazing how fast this year has gone by so far. It's almost half over. Seems like it just started the other day. But anyway, on New Year's Eve, my neighbor, Chris, who is the man who designed the plans for my house. He had invited me over, gather around his fire pit in his backyard with some other people that he knows for New Year's Eve. And while I was there was this couple that were asking me questions about all the logos on my car and different crypto stuff. And they'd ask me a question and then I would answer. They'd ask me another question. I would answer it. And this went back and forth for at least 15 minutes. And then finally, my friend Travis, who is also the man I hired to build my house, he yells from the other side of the fire pit. He's like, Tim, you know so much about this cryptocurrency stuff. You and I, we should just start our own coin. And I don't remember exactly what I said in response to him, but it was rather dismissive because, first of all, it's one thing to know how this stuff works. It's a totally other game if you want to actually program your own cryptocurrency. I mean, that's so far out of my ballpark, it's not even funny. And I'm the guy people call when they need assistance with their computer. Uh, Couple that with the fact that my personal sentiments towards the entire cryptocurrency space at that time are probably the lowest that they've ever been in the last 13 and a half years that I've been involved in this stuff. Um, so that was kind of the end of that. But a few weeks later, Richard Hart, the man who invented Hex and the Pulse Chain blockchain, he released a program on his network called Pump Tires. And essentially, what Pump Tires is, it's a means for people to literally create their own cryptocurrency without the need for any kind of programming knowledge. You just fill in a few blanks, push a button, pay a small transaction fee, and boom, there you go. There's your crypto. And I looked at this Pump Tires program when it first launched, and quite frankly, I wasn't really that impressed with it when I first saw it because it's basically what is called a meme coin generator. And to me, meme coins are really just vain attempts to apply value to human stupidity. And unfortunately, most people can relate to being stupid. So meme coins do have a tendency to pump fairly quickly. But at the same time, they also tend to dump just as quickly because stupidity, although it does provide some comic relief to some of the garbage that we have to go through in this life, it really isn't sustainable as something to uh, base value on. So I kind of forgot about it for a couple weeks until I met up with Travis at his office over another matter. And as I was about to get up and leave, I sat back down and I told him, I'm like, Travis, do you remember on New Year's Eve you talked about wanting to start your own crypto? And he's like, yeah. I said, well, Richard launched this program, and he knows who Richard is, that will allow you to do that. You don't need to know anything. You just, push a button and there you go. And he just slowly pivots his chair over to his printer and grabs a piece of paper and pivots back to his desk and grabs a pen. And he's like, This is what I would do if I had my own coin. And he proceeded to draw out his method of distribution. And while he was in the process of doing that, he had said some things that caused me to stop him and say, if you're serious, I'd be willing to back you in this because you just said some things I've been trying to get across to the entire cryptocurrency space the whole time I've been in it. And it's mostly fallen on deaf ears. And that is the distinction between the market and a team. Basically, the word market is just a word to describe human beings and their economic behaviors. And the natural disposition of human beings is one of fear, greed, and selfishness. And that's basically what drives the market. And if you want to participate in the marketplace and not have to deal with that dysfunction, then whatever you bring into the marketplace, you need to own most of the supply because whoever owns most of the supply is authorized to define the value of that particular thing. He knew that, and he was telling me that rather than me telling him and him pretending to understand what I'm talking about. So that really caught my attention. And so with pump tires, let me share this here on the screen. Let's see. I'll try this view. This is the Pump Tires website. And one of the things I noticed when I went on there that actually did appeal to me was the fact that when you go here and you click create new coin, here's all the blanks that you can fill in. You can upload an image so that your coin has a logo. You type in a name here, and then you type in a ticker tag, basically 3 or 4 letters, so that tracking sites can keep a record of your coin. Those are the two important things. But there's these options down here, and this one option right here is that you have the ability to purchase a percentage of your coin before it becomes available on the exchange. And with pump tires, the way it was set up, every coin that launches on here is initially paired with the Pulse coin. Pulse is the native coin of the Pulse chain network. It's the coin that you need to perform all the transactions. So by putting up a certain amount of Pulse, you can acquire up to 80% of the supply of your coin before it launches. And it's generally around 200 million Pulse that you need to put up in order to acquire that 80%. And when I told Travis about that, he was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. So before we did that, he wanted to discuss this with his son first to see if he wanted to become a co-founder with Travis and I. And he was like, yeah, definitely. And then we were contemplating inviting other people to be co-founders with us. And Travis's son was just like, if the three of us can put up the money, then let's just leave it with us. Because, like I said, the fewer holders you have, the less dilution of value there is, because the three of us would basically be running the show here. So that's what we did. We each put up the money to acquire 200 million Pulse and buy the 80% supply. Now, all the coins that launch on pump tires, start off with a fixed supply of 1 billion coins, and that supply never inflates. It's just that's it. And that's all minted in one transaction when you launch your coin. There's no mining, there's no staking. It's just straight up billion supply. There is an option for burning some of the supply. You can send coins to a burn address and deflate your supply if you choose to, but there's no inflation. So we went and launched this coin, and soon as it launched, we went directly to the PulseX exchange, because the way Pump Tires operates is that once your coin reaches a certain threshold, it migrates from the Pump Tires site and the exchange associated with that site over to the decentralized exchange that lives on the Pulse Chain network, which is called PulseX. And the nice thing about this decentralized exchange is that it's basically a computer program. There's no board of directors behind this exchange that is arbitrarily making up rules out of its own imagination that favors one person or one asset over another. It's all just pure math. And because we purchased the full 80% supply right off the bat, we immediately migrated over to PulseX on day one. And what was really interesting, this is our coin on PulseX, and I want to make a slight adjustment here. Okay. This is the information page of PulseX, and you can just type in the search bar the name of your coin, and it finds it and pulls it up. So one thing we noticed as soon as we launched, there were buys coming in instantly. And if you look here, on the first day, there was $22,000 worth of volume. And we're just looking at each other like, what is going on here? Where is all this coming from? And what we realized is these were trading bots that they basically scan the network. And if they see a new coin launch, they automatically buy some for the respective traders that own these bots. And that's what happened with us. People started buying right off the bat, but then most of them turn around and resold pretty much within 24 hours. However, there were two that purchased in excess of 1% of the entire supply. Actually, a total of 3% of the supply was purchased by these bots on day one. And the significance of that is, in the world of cryptocurrency, there's different titles that are given to people who hold a certain percentage of any particular asset. If you own more than 1%, you're considered a whale. And it doesn't matter what the asset is, there's only room for 100 whales total, because 100 times 1% is 100%, and there's your whole supply. So anyway, these bots bought 3% of the supply on day one. And we knew that this is something that we were going to have to deal with going forward, that supply is out there on the market. But another thing that we did after launching the coin is we implemented the first step in enlarging our team by sharing what we've done with people that we know in our immediate area, basically word of mouth. And some people started to take an interest and said, "Hey, I'll buy some of your coin." And we began to assemble a team. And because we started picking up traction as far as volume and transactions in regard to our coin, we made an appearance on what is known as Dex Screener, which is it's basically a tracking site that has all kinds of price charts for multiple assets on here. And this is our price chart. And um, what we did is our team, we would just buy every day whenever we had funds available. And on this chart, each one of these candles represents a 3-day period. And you can tell by looking at the bottom underneath, you see there's March 14th, April 13th, May 13th, and here we are today. So anyway, eventually, one of these traders, one of the whales, the larger of the two whales, he dumped his entire bag on this day where this red candle is. And of course, we bought that supply up. And what happened is because our coin is paired with Pulse, and Pulse is what is known as a volatile coin because the price is subject to change every time the network updates the ledger, which is basically every 10 seconds. So the price of Pulse defines the price of our coin. And as a result, our coin is volatile. And if the price of Pulse goes down, then even when we buy it, it tends to create red candles on our chart. And the red candles mean that the price at the end of the day is lower than what it was at the beginning of the day. You can see at the top of the chart here, this O means the price on the opening day. The high is the price, the highest price throughout the course of the day or the course of the candle. As I said, these are 3-day candles. And then the L represents the lowest price during that period. The C means the closing price at the end of the period. And then this represents the total price difference throughout the time of that particular candle. So what happened is as we started to accumulate more and more of the supply, we got to a point where we wanted to create a second liquidity pool where we could pair our coin with what is known as a stable coin, which is the opposite of a volatile coin. A stable coin is worth $1, and as long as that stable coin maintains its dollar peg, it doesn't change value. It just always remains at $1. And we decided that we wanted to wait until we had acquired approximately 95% of the total supply before creating this second pool. So that was around the middle of April, about during the time of this green candle right here. And at that time, after we as a team, we met together and I explained stablecoins to everybody and showed them a list of all the different stablecoins that are available on Pulse Chain. We all came to an agreement on which stablecoin we were going to pair with, and that is with a coin known as USDL. And this is the price chart for that liquidity pool. Now, one thing that is a part of the PulseX exchange, you can see here there's V1 and V2. On V1, version 1 of PulseX, if you create a liquidity pool, which is what we did when we launched our coin, all of the fees that the exchange generates from the trading of the coin are used to buy and burn the PulseX coin, which is just a coin that is associated with the exchange. If you create a coin on version 2 of the exchange, then you are entitled to fees if you're a liquidity provider. Instead of those fees being used to buy and burn PulseX, they are distributed to the liquidity providers based on what percentage of the pool they own. So we eventually got to that place where we created a second liquidity pool on version 2 of PulseX, and that's this chart. You can see here, it's our coin TFC. That's our ticker. The name of the coin is called the Fitzgerald Company. And then USDL is the stable coin that we decided to pair with. And once we did that, it was at that point that we implemented the second effort to enlarge our team by disclosing the price chart on X. I still like to call it Twitter. But I started posting on X at that point when we created the second poll. And I've been posting every day on there. And I've only posted just the candles and the days. I didn't post the ticker or any of the coin information at that time because I wanted people to ask me for the contract address because I wanted to get a sense of who is taking an interest in our coin so I can get a sense of who is on our team, unless somebody just directly tells me, hey, I'm on the team. So that's been the strategy from that point to this point. So where we are now is this video is basically the third attempt to enlarge our team by explaining everything that has transpired to bring this coin into existence, why it exists, what our objectives are, what our plan is to create success. And part of that has to do with the fact, if you look here on this chart, scroll down here, as I said, there's only enough room in any asset for 100 whales. And as of now, there are only 3 whale positions left on the exchange. So the rest of them are safely being protected by our team. And At this point, one may ask, well, so what's your objective here? Because most people are acquainted with something called pump and dumps. And I will explain that right here. This this graphic has been posted on X by numerous people numerous times over the years. And as it says at the top, it's the psychology of a market cycle. And there's different names that are applied to different points along the way as an asset pumps and then it dumps, it pumps and then it dumps, and then it reaches point number 2 at the top where it says euphoria. And that's usually a capitulation point where a whale, somebody with a giant bag, they dump and other people start to panic dump. And then it recovers a little bit and that takes you to point 2. And then it just rage dumps after that, point 3, denial. And then point 4, anger. And then the price just stays flat for sometimes years at a time, and then it starts to go up a little bit. That's called disbelief, number 5. And then it dumps again, and then you go back over to the other side of the chart, and this is just the cycle. It goes over and over and over again. And see, people would look at our chart and wonder, okay, at what point are you guys going to dump on everyone's head? And the answer to that is we're not going to, because there is a better way if people are willing to consider the better way. Unfortunately, as I said, markets are driven by fear, greed, and selfishness. And, you know, dumping on people's heads is the most instantly gratifying way of taking a profit. However, in the world of decentralized finance, which is what Pulse Chain and PulseX brings to the marketplace, is the fact that there's actually 3 different ways to take a profit from a cryptocurrency. The first way is the way that everybody's acquainted with, and that's where you sell to an exchange. And this is what most people who are into crypto do. They buy Bitcoin or whatever from an exchange. They buy it at a certain price because they believe it's going to go up in price. And when it does, they sell it back to the exchange for a profit that they cash out, and that's that. But what decentralized finance does is it allows people to sell from the exchange. Centralized exchanges don't do that. They say, okay, here's the prices we deal with, and you either take it or leave it. With decentralized finance, what it offers people is not only the ability to create their own wealth, but it gives them the authority to define the value of that wealth. And that's where liquidity pools come in. Because what happens is when you create a liquidity pool, particularly on version 2 of PulseX, where you can earn fees, what you're doing is instead of selling to the exchange, you're using the exchange as a store, like eBay, for example, where you take your asset and let's say you want to sell $100 worth of your coin. Well, what is required is you have to put up $100 worth of something else to pair with what you want to sell. And then what the exchange does is it compensates you based on the volume of the buys and the sells of both assets because you've provided for both sides of the pair. So, in other words, you're not giving your money away to somebody, you're simply parking it in a place where other people are allowed to interact with it. And the exchange compensates you for making that available because you are providing a service. And another way these exchanges work is every time a buy or a sell occurs, that impacts the price. So if you look on the price chart here, let's see. When a person buys, they tend to push the price up unless the other asset drops in price between the last buy and the current one. But usually buys produce green candles because the buys push the price up. If you sell to the exchange, you're pushing the price down. And it's the down price that you're actually getting from the sale, not the current price. It's like when you go on the exchange, when you go on PulseX, before you actually pull the trigger, it tells you this is the price impact that it's going to have. And you have to confirm whether or not you want to go through with that. So by providing liquidity, what you're doing is you're making your coins available for sale. So the buyers push the price up instead of you selling to the exchange and pushing the price down. And if you own most of the supply, then you decide how much supply you're going to sell at any given time. So right now, there's 3 whale positions left. If, like I said, a whale owns 1% of the supply. If you own 10% of the supply, you're considered a Poseidon. And right now, there are no Poseidon positions available in our coin because there's just not that many on the exchange. If somebody decided, hey, I'd like to hold a Poseidon position in your coin, well, those of us who have a Poseidon position, we would have to decide whether or not we wanted to make those coins available for sale. And that's the third way one can take profit with cryptocurrency is you can do what is called an over-the-counter sale, where you simply send coins from your wallet to somebody else's wallet based on some kind of personal agreement that you make with that person, and you bypass the exchange altogether. So those are the 3 ways of taking profit. You sell to the exchange, push the price down. You sell from the exchange where buyers push the price up, or you sell directly person to person without the exchange. And, this brings the question of how do you know that you guys aren't going to just rage dump and just sell all your coins and get all that pulse out of the liquidity pool? Because if you look on our price chart, we put up 200 million pulse to buy 80% of the supply. There's still 3.8% of the supply left, but we've accumulated over a billion pulse. So we've accumulated an additional 800 million pulse in our liquidity pool because of people buying our coin. And somebody can look at that and say, well, how do we know you guys, since you guys own most of the supply, how do we know you're not just going to dump and get all that pulse back for yourself? Well, there's 2 things. First of all, Travis is a licensed contractor here in Arizona. He intentionally chose to name the coin after his contracting business because that brings an element of professional conduct into the cryptocurrency space, which is something I have not seen before. I've never seen a cryptocurrency that was named after a legitimate business. And as a matter of fact, we even have a Twitter account that is associated with our coin. Now, granted, we haven't really published hardly anything from this account yet because we were waiting until the production of this video before disclosing publicly the full story behind our coin. But this is Travis's company logo. This is the name of his company. This is his ROC number. So the point being, if Travis were to do something like dump all of his coins and basically take the money and run, well, that kind of nefarious behavior would have an implication on his business. Because if he's going to be a crook in one industry, well, then people will think, well, how do we know he's not a crook in the other industry? So there is a compelling interest in not dumping his coins. And since his son is also running the company, his son has the same compelling interest. And then that leaves me. And I have a compelling interest in not dumping my coins on everyone's head because I've been in crypto for 13 and a half years and I've never been involved in some kind of scam. And it would really be unconscionable for me to take advantage of people like that because I know that the Bible says, whatsoever you eat, whatsoever you drink, and whatsoever you do, do all to the glory of God. And to me, that's not just a belief, that's knowledge. I know that, and I know the ramifications of disregarding that. And so for me to use this coin for the purpose of glorifying myself at the expense of others, that can have some very real implications in my personal life and in my relationships with people in my church, for example. If people knew that I was taking advantage of people, I could be disfellowshipped. Especially if they watch this video and they're like, hey, this sounds like a good idea. Maybe I'll buy some of your coin. Okay, well, now I'm looking out for those people too. So not only does our coin bring in a leg of professional conduct, it also brings in a leg of spiritual conduct. So we have two legs of integrity surrounding our coin to show our holders that we mean business. We are on purpose to have basically the best price chart in history. We want to have the best crypto, the best price chart. We want to have the best asset that's ever existed. And the only thing that can stop us from doing that is us, because our team owns most of the supply. And most of the people that are on our team, I know them all by name. And I know where some of them live. And we talk to each other on a regular basis. Most of us play pickleball together. And what's really interesting is this chart that we've put together. We don't have any millionaires in our corner. We're just working people and retired people. And we've built this store of value that has gone up 20 times, almost 30 times since it launched back in March. Oh, and by the way, this big red candle right here, once we started posting on X, part of that was to draw out this last whale. And he took the bait. Over the course of about 10 days, he started selling his coins. And between this 3-day period, actually, it started with this 3-day period. He started selling the top, and then he unloaded like 7 million coins in one day, and he was out. But that wasn't the only thing that happened at that time. Some of our team members ran out of money and they couldn't buy anymore. We had this whale dump, and then the price of Pulse started pulling back again. So our buys were contributing to these two red candles. And a significant number of people who learned about our coin from X and bought some, they started dumping also. So this was a real test of character for our team at this point, because this is usually where you start having people panic selling and you have capitulation and you have the price dropping way down here. That didn't happen. We recovered and we made a new all-time high, and the price of Pulse started pulling back again. So it's been harder to keep the momentum. But there's nobody that can wreck our chart because nobody has a big enough bag to accomplish that. So literally the sky's the limit. I've had people ask me, what's your ceiling? And I tell them there is no ceiling. A store of value doesn't have a ceiling. It just has a floor that keeps going up and up and up. Because if people want to take profit, they could just sell their coins from the exchange as a liquidity provider. And then new team members can buy those coins to build a position. Existing team members can buy those coins to enlarge their position until they're happy with their position that they can start selling. You just keep this cycle going over and over, and you don't have to worry about the market cycle where there's this continual pumping and dumping. We figured out how to bypass all of that, and nothing can stop our momentum except us. And since the three founders, we own most of the supply. We're not dumping. We're going to feed the liquidity pool with a larger amount of coins, but only as the demand requires it. Right now, there's not that much demand. There's not that many people that are buying our coin. And and plus, we want to acquire more out of this original pool. Like I said, there's still 3.8% of the supply left. If people watching this video don't acquire those last three whale positions, it's inevitable that the existing members on our team will. And then there will be no more whale opportunities for anybody without the permission of the team. And then it'll be up to the team to decide, do I even want to sell that many coins? Do I want to put up that much liquidity? Maybe I'll just sell a dolphin position, which is 0.01% of the supply. And as of right now, there's only 386 dolphin positions left before the coin is essentially gone. So this is what's been going on. And this is really exciting because even though I've been in cryptocurrency for all these years, I never had my own coin. I've always been working to try and make somebody else's coin a store of value. And that's always been an uphill battle because the market has always owned most of the supply. And it's just been, an uphill battle. Well, now the battle's over. And, it's just clear skies from here. So this is what's been going on so far this year, and it has just been the most life-changing experience ever. I mean, this is amazing. I mean, this is like watching your child grow up. It's awesome. And the fact that other people are benefiting from this. Everybody who holds this coin is in profit right now. Nobody is in the hole. So it's just a matter to see where we go from here. So if any of this interests you, just feel free to reach out and contact me. I can answer any questions you have. If you need any more details on how any of this works, I'd be more than happy to explain it. But that's basically the scoop. And until next time, see y'all later. Bye.